There's a whole lot more of this conversation I feel like we could go
Oh yeah,
into, but we are
forever.
we are coming close to our time here, and I do want to take some time to talk about what's happening right now in Minneapolis because,
Yeah.
as I'm sure everyone is aware who's listening now, maybe in the future you don't know, we're recording at the end of January in 2026, and there's a very large federal presence in the cities that is causing an incredible amount of chaos. So I'm curious. You'd posted on Instagram about uh, requesting a donation so that you could go, or your organization could go purchase food from taquerias to then distribute to
Mhm.
people experiencing homelessness. I'm curious, beyond that, what have you been seeing? How has what's been happening impacted uh, this community in the cities?
Yeah, I mean so much, right? Like we are seeing um and folks who aren't here have some understanding of this, but maybe not the full understanding that like last weekend when um when Alex Preddy was killed, the temperature, and you alluded to this earlier, Eric, like the temperature that weekend was not just freezing, but with wind chill, we're talking like -30, -40, -50. Like you're outside and you are frostbite within minutes if you're not properly attired, right? And so we're seeing, I mean, unhoused, unsheltered folks are dealing with that on top of this ICE occupation. And something that we've seen in multiple cities is that, and this is public knowledge, this isn't rumor, right? That ICE has quotas and expectations on how many people that they arrest and detain. Um, and a lot of the way that they meet quotas is by finding people without documentation, and unhoused people tend to be without documentation a lot, not because they're not citizens, but because documentation is hard to hold on to. It gets lost, it gets thrown away during the sweeps that we talked about. And so unsheltered people are just especially vulnerable to ICE. When companies, restaurants are building their ICE protocols, like and to prevent ICE from coming in, and breaking their constitutional rights, their last resort is the front door. Like if without a warrant, theoretically, ICE can't enter private property. What if you don't have private property to be in, to shelter from? All you have is a tent, right? So unhoused people are extremely cold. They're extremely hungry. A lot of places are having to close because of this occupation and this fear, because staff aren't coming in because they're afraid. It's a complete mess right now, and nobody knows day to day what's happening. And so, for folks who already live a very day to day life dependent on surviving one day at a time, you throw an entire city into chaos, and you add sub-zero freezing temperatures, and you add that this population is vulnerable to the folks who are causing the chaos. Um, and it's a really bad situation. That's about all I can say.
Yeah, I would love to ask and for you to have an answer of where we go from here with that, but I don't. None of
Yeah.
us knows. So, I guess what uh, have you seen anything that is positive, or is there? Have you seen any recourse for folks who you're working with, or anything along those lines?
I mean, the positive stuff is that we're taking care of each other. And Minneapolis is really good at that because we've been doing it for a while. I think everything that happened in 2020, the folks that were paying attention in Minneapolis learned that we can't count on the government to save us. um, and we can advocate, we can try to elect politicians. I'm not saying throw the whole thing away, right? But at the end of the day, we love and protect one another. And and so when this all began happening, we were kind of ready for that in a weird way. And so, when I put out that call to raise money, and that was not my initiative, but that of some other mutual aid folks out here that just really resonated with me. Um, we like $10,000 came in just to buy burritos to pass to unhoused people. I'm aware of other ones for folks to buy groceries that um, you know past 30, $40,000. Um, there's a GoFundMe out there for rent for folks just in the Powderhorn neighborhood, which is a small neighborhood within Minneapolis that's raised over $200,000. Um, and that's just the money part. That's to say nothing of the logistics and infrastructure of buying groceries, bagging groceries, delivering groceries. That's all happening nearly entirely volunteer, nearly entirely among people who already have full-time jobs, who may be struggling themselves. Um, but people are taking care of each other here, and we're learning to get better at that. We're formalizing that. We're teaching each other. We're learning from people who have been doing it a lot longer than us because they've been vulnerable in a way that I've never had to experience. And to me, that's community and that's beauty. And we can wait and hope for the mayor, the governor, the president, whatever, to shift what they're doing or to come to our rescue or protect us from the other. But um, in the meantime, we are what we have, and I think that we are enough.